Anthropic's set to IPO this year, one of the biggest offerings of all time, and a few people are about to get minted. All right, so let's take a look at their growth over the last 12 months. In March 2025, they were worth around 60 billion, which again, very impressive. Any startup worth that amount is nothing to sneeze at. But in May of this year, they raised 65 billion at a $965 billion valuation. So it shows you the material step change and the skyrocket growth they've had over the past year and a bit. The revenue is around 45 billion in annual revenue run rate most recently. In October, it was rumored to be around 8 billion, so you've seen a 5x in that category. They've submitted their S1 document. It's rumored they will IPO, go public around October this year, so sometime in the fall. They haven't really given us much details around profit and kind of gross margins and EBITDA, but that'll come out in the S1 and as they go on a roadshow. I think they will likely IPO around 1.5 trillion in terms of valuation, which again, if you think about this 5-6-year-old company, very, very impressive. All right, so let's see who's going to have a great payday when they IPO. We'll split this in 3 sections: investors, then look at the founders, and then eventually the employees themselves. Starting with the investors, Amazon, who deserve a lot of credit for taking a risk on Anthropic when everybody else was lining up behind OpenAI. They invested very early, approximately around 13 billion. They own between 15 to 20% of the company, and they'll make, at a 1.5 trillion dollar valuation, approximately 300 billion in terms of return. So a very nice payday for Amazon. Google, who are their own AI provider, which is interesting. They're somewhat hedging their bets by going with by investing in another player. They've invested tens of billions. They own around 14%. So they should see an IPO of that price around $200 billion that is returned to Google. Then you have this mix of VCs and other institutions, including Iconic, Lightspeed, Menlo Ventures. They own approximately 15% of the company, so a very similar return as Google, but a wider mix or smaller portion overall. A few kind of interesting points. One, this is a very good return for corporate venture capital, which usually doesn't always get seen in the best light. They're seen a bit more less professional than VC firms themselves. But Amazon, Google, maybe they're a bit different because they operate in the tech space a bit more. But very good return for them. And these returns will just be phenomenal for everyone, even if those that got in late in terms of VCs. Because the growth has been so tremendous, even between now at 965 billion and eventually 1.5 trillion is my guess, that the returns on this, even if they got in the late stages, will just be exceptional for these VCs, kind of the return the fund type of exits. All right, let's turn to its founders. So first of all, I didn't know Anthropic had so many founders. Apparently they have 7 co-founders that had left OpenAI. I think I often know of Dario and Daniela Almade as maybe a bit of the face of Anthropic, but obviously there's more people involved. Similar to OpenAI, Sam Altman gets a lot of praise and a lot of recognition, but there are many talented both co-founders and kind of key employees behind it. Interestingly, they own a very small percentage of the company, around 1.5% is kind of what I found online, the rumors. Now, it's a small percentage, and obviously as founders start off with a lot of equity in a company, and as they have more rounds of investment, it gets diluted in each of the rounds. But it's a small percentage of a huge amount. If it does IPO about 1.5 trillion, each of them walk away with around 20 billion each. So again, another good payday for themselves. All right, so let's look at employees now. There's around 3,000 to 5,000. They're also growing very quick, so that number continues to bump up. Their return or how much money they will make depends on largely when they join. Many, if not, well, not all, but many will become millionaires. Those that joined kind of 23, 24, when it didn't have all the mojo behind it, likely had very good equity packages. From what I've read online, you're hearing between 50 to 150 million for some of these early senior-ish employees. That will be generational money that they can get. Even the ones that join in 25 and 26, they will be doing very well indeed. So I'm not too worried about the employees. This is also the benefit of working for a startup. You get a bit of a lottery ticket. Now, a lot of early stage companies go under. They don't do that well, but occasionally you get one that strikes gold like this and sets you up financially for such a strong position. So employees in Anthropic, I think they're going to be very happy in October. All right, so should you invest in this IPO? And first of all, I don't take financial advice from myself. This is just my opinion. I'm wrong a lot. It does seem that they do have some strong momentum. I always think they have the model, the AI model that SpaceX wants, and they have the revenue that OpenAI is after. So, they're in a good position I always kind of group those 3 together. The bull case for Anthropic would be that crazy growth continues, and so far into 2026, there is no evidence that it slowed down. If anything, maybe it's picking up even more than the white hot growth they've had previously. Equally, enterprise customers are very sticky. If once you get in with them and they start adopting your products, it's very hard to rip and replace them. So again, they found a very valuable customer cohort to go after. And then Claude, continues to build out. And so they've started with coding, and then they moved a bit more to other products in terms of operations. Now they're moving to design. If they don't go too far wide on that and then, miss nailing the job to be done in each of those verticals, then I think they're in a very good spot. Now, the bear case for this is that token cost concerns is still a major thing. If anything, that is ramping up a bit. You've seen a bit of adoption movement towards Chinese models that are a fraction of the price of American frontier companies in terms of AI. Does that continue? Do they have certain models do the maybe low-hanging fruit task and Anthropic and more advanced reasoning ones do the other? I don't know. Equally, other AI models are getting better, specifically within coding is what I'm thinking. Codex from OpenAI, rumors are, and from what I've seen from friends in the space and read online, is getting much better as well. So could this be kind of a jockeying between 1 to 2 frontier models there? I'm not sure. And then lastly is more kind of regulatory, is that you've seen the government step in a few times and tamper and kind of shut down Fable and other models as well. So does that curb their growth, more the geopolitical risk? Again, not entirely sure. Would I do this? Would I buy into it? No, I'm not an IPO guy. I think there's too much buzz, there's too much marketing. I kind of wait till the first 1 or 2 reports or earnings come in and then see where it's headed. But that's just myself. So if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe if you can. We try to focus, or at least I try to focus on finance and tech news. And yeah, excited to see you next time.